CTBK is more than just a full-service accounting firm. They are one team with an innovative approach to accounting and rise to each new challenge with collaborative problem-solving skills. CTBK goes above and beyond by lending helping hands in the Buffalo and Niagara community through volunteer work and donations, and is partnered up with Victory Sports for 2020 and 2021 to keep kids in the community active. The professionals at CTBK are determined to help individuals and businesses succeed. Whether a large corporation, a small business, or somewhere in between, call CTBK at 716-630-2400. Again, 716-630-2400, and see what CTBK's one-team approach can do for you.
Welcome to another edition of Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK, CPAs and Business Consultants. I am Tim Graham of The Athletic, here with Jonah Bronstein of the New Bronstein Times and other places. And joining us for the first time in a while is Joe Yerdon of Noted Hockey. It's a new Substack page. He's going to tell us about it. But first, just bon mots all around. Joe Yerdon, thanks for joining the show.
Tim, it's always a pleasure, and it has been a while, and it's funny to be back because with everything that's been going on with the Sabres and Jack Eichel, it made me think back to a conversation we had when Vegas was coming into the league. And you had the great question of, if you're the Sabres, do you trade your entire roster for whatever Vegas gets? And I was like, no, because they got Eichel and Reinhart and these guys and the future and hope and all that stuff. And now it's like, boy, that's why I'm not a GM. That's why I write about it and don't work in it, really. So yeah,
I remember that on the old radio show. You would come in the studio and we would have these nice philosophical discussions about that and Rush, of course. I don't mean Odd Man Rush, the band Rush,
of course.
And so it's good to have you back on so we can get into this crazy Sabres start. You've been writing about it at your site. In fact, let's go ahead and start let's tell people about your site. It's Noted Hockey. It is at Substack. You can go there directly, notedhockey.substack.com, and sign up for Joe's site, which includes a newsletter and insights and observations, and it's free. So check it out. But
I'm a subscriber.
As am I.
Okay.
As am I.
That's great. I'm so happy that you guys have jumped on board for everything that I've got cooking up for it, because it had been too long since I was really dug into writing, ever since getting laid off and pandemic and all that stuff, all that, like everything that could have been bad was going on all at once, and dealing with a lot of that all at the same time, and trying to get mental health correct, try to get life straightened up a bit, and everything that goes into it. I was not in any sort of mood to be writing, to say the least. And with the team being as
I always thought there's something wrong with people who are ever in the mood to write, even when things are going great. Then you factor in a bunch of things out of your control, then you really are not in the mood to write.
Yeah. And like, I know it's probably makes me, I don't know if this makes me a normal writer or a weirdo, but being in the mood to write is always, to me, it always seemed like that got the best out of me, at least from a creative sense. When you do sports writing and you do beat stuff and you're doing stuff on the deadline, like, and especially if it's a hard game, if it's a game story deadline where it's like, hey, the buzzer sounds, you better have something in. You're not always going to get the best out of that. Sometimes you're just going to get the panicked, I'm doing as well as I can with this right now, and hopefully this works kind of writing, which I don't know. I will always give forever credit to anybody who can write a brilliant at the buzzer story that makes sense and sounds great and works, because holy crap, man, like that's so damn hard. It's so damn hard to just get that right. And my brain jumps everywhere with writing. So keeping it focused, it's like keeping like the laser pointer pointed at the wall and not moving it, so that I can just stay with what I'm supposed to do, as opposed to just wow, everything's happening. And hockey is a bad sport for that, because that's all hockey is just, the laser pointer is just going everywhere.
Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate you saying that about my writing.
Listen, compliments all around, Jonah. You're the best in the business for a reason.
My least favorite part of covering hockey on deadline when I was doing it for the Buffalo News was the advent of the shootout, when things were, of course, sped up. Prior to that lockout, the team that scored first was going to win the game. And that was just the way hockey was. And it was one of the problems with hockey, really. But coming out of that lockout, a 3-goal lead was not safe, especially against the Sabres. If you got up on those Sabres teams, even 2 or 3 goals, it didn't matter. And then if the team that's losing scores late to force overtime and then ends up winning in the shootout, which seems to have been a coin flip back at that time, you're scrapping everything you've written in terms of what the loss meant for the team. And, now all of a sudden it's a courageous comeback win that gives them momentum or whatever the narrative is. But yeah, it's no fun. I do not miss those days, Joe. But your Substack there, and again, I'll keep giving out the address. It's notedhockey.substack.com. You get to write what you want when you want. It's Tyler Dunn is also a Substack denizen with his Go Long site that seems to be going well. So you're the boss. And what's your philosophy with Noted Hockey?
Well, I want to keep it as interesting and informative and honestly light. Like I don't want it to be overly heavy. And I kind of, the first few posts I did, there's a lot of introspection there, which I think I have to get out, get it out of my system after, being on the shelf here for a while. Like sometimes you have to write that stuff out and just get it out and just be like, all right, that's cleared. I've cleared the decks. Let's get focused here. Like there's a passing mention of hockey. There was, a little bit of Sabres sprinkled in because it's, it's the beginning of the season. Nobody's getting that excited unless, you're a horrible team and you go 3-0 to start the season. Then you get a little bit pumped up. But with this, it's something where there were, things that I was doing with the Athletic and even ideas that I would have with NHL.com for stories and like those kinds of things. I can still do them. Like, I don't necessarily have to be in the house. I don't have to be talking to players and whatnot. And a lot of that's, just analyzing and looking at what's going on and deciding like, hey, I know a little bit about hockey. Let me look at this and say, maybe this is something to go on. Like my newest post about Rasmus Dahlin, I saw him playing on the right side of, as a right defenseman a little bit in the last couple of games. And I said, I wonder if something's going to be happening there more. Because against Arizona, he did it for an entire period, just played the right side. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And then he was doing it off and on against Vancouver. And I was like, that's curious too. So I just looked at it and tried to figure out like what's going on there. And like, that's just one thing. And as long as this team stays interesting and as long as Don Granato keeps this team being, at least entertaining to watch, there's going to be a lot of things to pick out because Don, in my mind, Don's a coach that's going to try a lot of stuff. And honestly, with this roster, you can probably get away with trying a lot of different things. And that's fine because the expectations are below ground where the bar is. So, it's being able to peek at these things because honestly, as long as teams are doing, Zoom coverage, like the Islanders are staying with their Zoom stuff and you're not getting a lot of that in-room access to just shoot the shit with guys and just do whatever.
Right.
That makes it really difficult to do profiles like on guys. And, you have to do a lot more background digging. And honestly, if it's not dealing with NHL people, I can still do that too.
And it's not just writing or pulling the feature off. It's even coming up with the idea or a notion of a feature because so many of those ideas come from a conversation about something else. And they mention a little anecdote in passing and you think, oh, he doesn't think that's interesting, but I do. I don't think he realizes how interesting that is. Mm-hmm. And the PR staff might not even know about it because he's just mentioning it off the top of his head. And you just don't have those conversations anymore that generate those really interesting personality type pieces.
And I think that's what's the most frustrating for everybody in the business. And this goes for every single sport. Depending, I don't know what the access is like for the NFL.
Similar,
I don't know if
at least with
similar?
the Buffalo Bills, and the Buffalo Bills are considered among the more generous teams when it comes to access, and it's really tight.
That's tough. I know when baseball writers were allowed back on the field to do some stuff, like that was cool, but there was still no room access. It was all post game Zooms and whatnot. But when you don't have that availability, you can't get to know the players as people. And that to me is something that every league could learn lessons from, because I understand why teams want to keep it tight, and they don't want people to get too chummy, or you get too close with people, then things get out, or all that crap. But like, if you want to have genuine stories told about your players, you got to let that happen. Like, you got to let people talk to people as people, not as the stilted reporter athlete relationship. That stuff it's really hard to like step away from that. Even when you're in the room already, that's really tough to break from. Like, you can't, if you don't hit it off with a guy right away, then it's going to be a little bit awkward all the time. And unless you're able to find like that balance, trying to get those little nuggets here and there. Don't mind the West Side Sirens here. It's really difficult to
I like the
get
ambiance,
that.
actually. That's good color.
It's flavorful over here, but yeah, I don't know, man. I feel bad for everybody who's been wanting to write like really, cool stories, really interesting. Like, you have to work doubly hard to do it. And I mean, it's not like you can't do it. It's just like, we all have, you got to keep writing. Like, you can't stop writing just to do one thing completely. Like, you have to do 5 other things if you're working on this one thing. And that's, this job doesn't need to be harder than it is. So if I can be my own boss and do it, cool. Like, that's great.
Well, I think it'll be a success. People love your thoughts, and like you say, the observation regarding Rasmus Dahlin playing on the right side is a perfect example of that type of insight. And hey, you guys, not only did you notice this, but let's take a deep look. That's what Joe Yerdon does. Joe, let's hit the reset button for the Sabres here. Throw out a couple of stats in case people are just only half paying attention as the Bills are dominating Western New York sports consciousness, which is common. Mm-hmm. And I think people just dismissing the Sabres. There are probably some casual hockey fans out there that aren't even sure if this is preseason or not, because the Sabres aren't supposed to be winning, so it must be preseason. But the Sabres are 3-0 heading into Friday night's game against the Boston Bruins. And that is at KeyBank Center. And then they play the New Jersey Devils Saturday night on the road. So they get to go visit good friend Lindy Ruff. But 3-0 after that 5-2 win over Vancouver. They are perfect on the penalty kill on 9 chances against and 62 scoring chances. But the one stat that really stands out to me is that in these 3 games, they are plus 26 in shots. And that might be like, well, okay, that happens in hockey. But this is a team that in 56 games last year was outshot 42 times. So they've already had 3 strong games in terms of shots for, shots against. What's just your general take here, and Joe, watching these guys and their puck control and aggressive offense? Yeah,
it's a night and day thing from how this team played under Ralph Kruger. Like, it couldn't be more 180 degrees apart. Ralph's idea of getting things done was to defend at all costs and, slap the leash on the defenseman and say, you're not going to go any further than your offensive blue line, but you better get your ass back on defense. And a lot of the creativity was limited, and a lot of it meant, with his style of hockey, was teams brought it to them, and then then the Sabres would adjust. And a lot of times that's what coaches have done in the past. Instead, Granato's gone the other direction. He's like, well, let's put it on them. Let's pressure them. Let's forecheck them up the ice. Let's send a couple of guys in after the puck. Let's do this. And he's managed to get it so that these guys will all cover each other's ass too. because, they get set up in the zone and you see Darlene, maybe he dives in and he's going at for a shot, or Bryson or something like that. A forward's getting back to that position to make sure that the other defenseman isn't getting hung out to dry if the puck gets blocked out of the zone. Little basic things like that, which we didn't see under Ralph. We didn't really see it under Phil either. And the end of Dan Bilesma's run, that's a whole other thing. But like that kind of play, that kind of stuff is so basic, honestly. Like that's just common. That's common hockey that you got to be able to do. But these guys weren't doing it. And Granato's done a great job of coaching, like not just being the leader, but like coaching these guys up. And that's a huge credit to him. And these guys are playing really well from it. And whatever the weaknesses this team's, they have in certain spots, like, whether it's team speed or, you're a little questionable about the scoring depth or whatnot, you got every line playing the same kind of way. It doesn't really matter. Like, cause if you're coming at teams in the same wave and everybody's doing the same kind of thing and everybody's got different talents on it, you're getting different looks anyways. So to me, it's a great way to do it. Obviously what's helped is that they played, 3 teams that have a combined 1 win. Like that helps out too. Let's not get too excited here, but they've taken advantage of it. Maybe that Arizona game last year is one that they would lose. It's a 1-1 game. They go to a shootout. Shootout's a toss up. Who cares? But like, that's a game maybe they lose in regulation because something stupid happens. Somebody blows a coverage, the goalie misses something, whatever. Those are the kinds of games that you got to win when you pretty much ran it. You ran the show the whole game. You better win that game. And even the Vancouver game, like they trailed in that one, came back, tied it up. Third period comes around, they rolled and they steamrolled. So that kind of stuff, it's great to see. It's good to build the confidence. But like, we've been down this road before with Buffalo. Like they started 8-0-1 2 years ago. And, Carter Hutton was stopping everything in sight. And then the wheels fell off for everybody, not just Carter Hutton, but like the entire team. They had the 10-game win streak the year before that, and everybody was, gung-ho saying, oh, first place, here we go, we're going to win. And they were first place, the beginning of January? Or like they were in a playoff spot by the beginning of January still, and then they were out of it 2 weeks later, just done. See ya. So you can't get excited, but they're playing a style that people like watching. Like, it's crazy to think that you take away
it. You can respect it, and they'll be competitive, and it's not a waste of your time as a fan.
Right. And it's crazy to think that you take away like the star power players from the previous years, Reinhardt and Eichel and even Ristolainen. Like you take those guys away and you're thinking that's a lot of talent gone. That's a lot of talent out the door. Okay. Like they're going to stink. They're going to stink out loud, but I don't know. Sometimes you can just coach up a team and just get it done the right way. I mean, it's not like they're doing a major league thing and they've got like a picture of, Jack Eichel in there and they're pulling pieces off of it just to say like, screw him, we're going to do this. Like that ain't happening. But like if you get everybody pulling the rope in the same direction, man, sometimes things go right.
How much did you see this coming based on the way they finished up under Granato last year and preseason and the buzz from training camp?
I think the way they finished up last year, there was a little bit of a thought that maybe they could do something different. Like they're going to play different. At least they'll play interesting. They'll play exciting. They might lose a game 6-2, but like, hey, it'll be fun to watch. I mean, losing stinks, but like, it'll still be fun to watch. Being able to have this kind of success though, like right off the hop, I would predict that 0 people thought that they could see this coming. Even the way they played in the preseason, like, preseason is what it is, but they weren't blowing the doors off of people with their full lineup. They were still, figuring out who was going to be the goalie and all the, all the stuff the preseason goes into figuring out. Like you're not really watching preseason to see results. Like, I've seen too many teams go have a great preseason and then just be awful, as soon as the regular season starts. But yeah, nobody saw a start like this coming. And you know what? Their schedule's not bad. The first 11 games of this, not evil. Like they could have a nice, real nice start here, depending on, we'll see how they handle a West Coast road trip this early. But like the toughest teams they're going to face is going to be Boston on Friday. It's going to be Tampa next week. And then you get out West, like Anaheim and Seattle. Like you playing in Seattle is going to be a whole different thing because you don't know how they're going to play out there with the crowd and everything. The Kings are playing a little bit better, but like, okay, like that's fine. And the Ducks are supposed to be bad, but they're playing with some fire too. So I don't know. Maybe it's just something about the early part of the season where the teams that everybody's been dumping on and before the season started, they say, "Hey, screw them. Let's just go out and see what we can do before, the real teeth of the season, take over."
Maybe it's related to the discussions we've been having on Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK, with Joel Stanishevsky and trying to pick games against the spread. Joel will not be joining us this week because the Bills are on a bye, but the bye, I think, is coming at a good time for Joel. Joel had another rough week.
Joel doesn't gamble when the Bills don't play?
Well, he comes on to pick the Bills games. I reached out to him tonight to see if he would be available, and he said, well, he assumed in the past he has taken the bye week off. But I think Joel needs this week to maybe hit the reset button himself.
This is a pet peeve of mine. A lot of people in local sports media, when the Bills have a bye week, it doesn't mean you have a bye week.
That's right.
The world still goes along. Sports still goes along. There's so many people like, I'm going on vacation for the bye week. That's for the team, not for you.
Right.
That means
there are a bunch of people in the media. Heather Prusak and John Scott are going on vacation.
Yeah, they all do. They all act like the Bills are the only.
I think Matt Beauvais is on vacation.
Yeah.
I think Joe Biscaglia is going on vacation.
The Bills are, and Joe was a beat writer, and some of these people are more beat oriented, but there's a lot of people that aren't and that think covering the Bills is all that matters, and then they go leave the country when the Bills aren't playing that week.
That's right. Well,
I don't know. Sometimes you just got to get away from it all. But like, I don't know. I don't know. Would you rather have the bye week early like this in the season, or a little bit later, so you can get so you can get charged up?
It depends. When the schedule comes out, I think that you would want it, not knowing what's going to happen or how the season's going to unfold. You'd want it like right in the middle. That's probably the safest place for it to be. Mm-hmm. But then I think it depends on how your season starts. If you're not going well, then you're like, let's have the early bye week. And if you're the Bills, you probably would like to push your bye week back closer to the playoffs for injury recoup, all that type of stuff, re-energize, because they're playing well. Let's just mow through as many teams as we can, and we'll take the bye week a little bit later. And so, yeah, I think if you're good, you want it later, and if you're bad, you want it probably pretty early.
For injury purposes, it's probably better later. I feel like there's been coaches and players that have said that the ideal bye week is right in the middle of the season. You get that kind of mental break.
Yeah, like everything being equal, I think that's the case. But I think that if you're planning on a Super Bowl run, you probably want that bye in the third quarter of the season, or deep into the second half somewhere, just for that much more rejuvenation.
This is like the second year in a row, though, they've had a totally bad beat going into the bye week. Like,
right.
I don't know if that experience helps them out or not, or if it just makes it a crummy vacation for a week.
They've tended, I don't know the stat exactly, but they've tended to lose in the game before the bye week under Sean McDermott most of these seasons, haven't they?
Yeah, but I think I don't think you can have a common thread especially when you take a look at the last two, and the small percentage chance that they had to lose and actually did. I don't know that there's any kind of, you could factor maybe Sean McDermott's preparation or the approach or anything.
I think it's coincidence, but it's something that might, on paper, be developing into a trend if it continues to happen.
Speaking of health and staying fresh, staying sharp, of course, anybody who has followed Kyle Okposo's story, and he is a sentimental favorite among the Sabres fans. By the way, that story that I wrote about Kyle Okposo does not happen without Joe Yerdon. By the way, he was the one who worked with me on that story and sent it my way. So without Joe Yerdon, that story doesn't get told. But Kyle Okposo starting off great. Obviously, everybody loves what they see out of him. However, the injury history, it's tough to imagine him being able to keep playing at this pace. He does have the concussion history / neck problems, and playing at this pace, at this style, it's just hard to imagine him keeping up at it. You hope he does. And if he does, then he's maybe, playing in the Olympics or the All-Star game or whatever. Then he looks good. He looks great, actually. Your thoughts on what we've seen from him and that energy line that he's been on.
It's I know when we cover sports and, especially if you're on a beat, for any amount of time, you're not supposed to really pull for guys or really root for, you don't root for the team, obviously, but like, you can't really get it in you to just like, pump your fist a little bit when a guy that you like scores a goal. Like it feels a little weird, but it's really hard to not root for the best things to happen to Kyle. Like he's just a prince of a dude. Literally nobody says a bad word about him. Like you think, Islanders fans, we've seen how they treated John Tavares when he signed elsewhere. You think that, if anybody's going to turn on somebody, it would be the Isles fans, but even them, they still love Kyle. And to see him playing this way is awesome. Like he looks like he's in the best shape of his career. I know it's a tired thing to say, but like he looks slimmer, he looks faster. And the way he's playing on that line, like this is kind of what we saw a couple of years ago when it was Larson, Gergensons, and Opozo. Like that line was fantastic. Like they were great in possession. They were able to keep the puck in the opponent's end for, stretches of time and really wear out defenses and make it so that whenever, Jack's line or another scoring line would come out, they'd be able to have an advantage there. The fact that the way that they're playing and that Gergensons, missed all last year with the torn hamstring, and he looks like he hasn't missed a beat. And Cody Eakin, who I think the entire Sabres fan base wanted to run out of town last year. And to be fair, he was the worst player on the worst team in the NHL. So there's a little grounding there, but even Cody Eakins look really good. Now, he gets banged up in practice. We'll see
the haircut with him.
It's totally the ginger mullet. It's absolutely the ginger mullet. That's power. And the Joe Dirt ginger mullet is the way. But like Kyle's got 2 goals. Zemgus has 2 goals. Eakin's got a goal. Like that's 40% of their offense right now. Like that's nuts. Like if you told me that those guys had 5 of their goals in their first 3 games, I'd say they're 0-3 and they're getting their pants beat off of them. Like, forget it. Like there's nothing good that's coming out of this season. If that's the case, it's totally opposite. Like they're playing great and they're playing like the way they did with Larson a couple of years ago. And now they're getting goals to go with it. Kyle, like the adjustment of Kyle's career from being like the setup guy, power forward with the Islanders, and even the start in Buffalo. But like since he's changed, since the injury stuff has changed and whatnot, he's gotten older. He's become a guy who's really fed off of forechecking and hitting guys and making life miserable for opponents when they're trying to bring the puck up the ice. And he seemed to really love getting in on guys and throwing the body around and just making it miserable. But now he's doing that, and he's got the shot back. He sniped a goal the other night, and it was just like, wow, okay. Way to go, man. Like, that's good. And like all this stuff, it's great. It's just so good to see it from him. But I'm with you. The same thought is in the back of my head all the time, because all it's going to take is one thing to make it all bad again.
And I don't mean even just to sideline him for a while, but I mean, the bumps and the style that he plays, the bumps and the bruises, they accumulate. And then it gets harder and harder to play that style, especially when you start getting into back-to-back games and, at his age and things like that. So you hope that he's found the fountain of youth and something's kicked in for him, like you say, because it's impossible not to root for the guy. But it's, you can't be, you have to assume it's not sustainable that Kyle Okposo and that line is going to continue to carry the Sabres, that 3-0 does not mean they're on pace for 82-0, all that stuff.
But I would push back on saying that line is carrying the play, because they're getting scoring and shooting and production from really all of their lines.
True, but I think maybe in terms of setting a tone, the leadership aspect of it,
well,
that Kyle has the A,
absolutely.
And clearly, he and Miller are the leaders of the team, and that they're giving you, I'm sure that's setting, as everybody around the team has said, setting that example for everybody else that is being embraced, that maybe Well, all right. So I'm leading myself into a thought. Jonah and
Well,
I were.
I wanted to ask Joe.
Oh, go ahead.
If I because you kind of set that up well. Obviously, Zemgus, Girgensons, and Kyler Poso are not as skilled of players as Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart, but they're the alternate captains right now. And how much, with your experience being in the locker room in past seasons, how much do you think that's making a difference that Kyle Okposo and players like him, that their personalities are leading this team as opposed to other personalities that aren't in that room anymore?
I think it makes a big difference. And I think part of it's because now they're probably two of the oldest guys on the team. Colin Miller's another one who's one of the elder statesmen there. And, it's crazy to think that, Zemgus is one of the older guys in the team, and he's 28, maybe 29. But he's won Sabres tank survivor. Like, he's been there the whole time, like since he came up with 2012, 2013, something like that. Like,
he's the only one, I think, right?
He's the only guy that's lasted the whole time. Mark Pesic's back for a second tour of duty, but like, Zemgus is the guy that's made it through. And I think
Zemgus is popping his head out of that tank like Michael Dukakis.
Yes, that or Animal House when they drive the tank through everything, and then
right.
You just pop out and it's like, all right, what's going on here? Like that's Zemgus. Like, and I mean, geez, my heart aches for him to not be on anything close to a winning team ever here. But like, that's a whole other thing. But those guys, their example, like Kyle's had to work so hard, through the injury stuff and through everything to get back to where, to get to a level where he's playing like this. And Zemgus, very few guys work as hard as Zemgus Girgensons does off the ice. Like, I remember going to talk to him for a story, and like, it was like off season, and I was doing a story about him that was tied to his USHL days back in Dubuque. And he was just skating by himself at Harbor Center, and it's like a couple weeks before camp even opened up, and he's just in the rink, just doing his own thing, and just like doing drills by himself, doing all this stuff. And I know he's a workout freak too, but like, the dude never stops. Like, he just goes and he does his business, does his job. Classic lunch pail kind of guy. The kind of guy this whole city should probably lose their mind over. If they became a playoff team, Zemgus is the guy that everybody's like, I love him, gotta have him. Like, that's that attitude. But that's a great example for some of these younger dudes on the team. Like, these guys have stayed in the NHL for a long time. Kyle's been a star. He's been an all-star, and he's still going, and he's still playing well. And I think that's a great example for guys like Cousins, for Middlestat, for Thompson, for Dahlin, for Yoki Hardy, all these guys that are, under 23, 24 years old. That's a great example to have those guys carrying the torch and leading the way. And they might not be rah-rah guys, but they're certainly showing their, throwing their weight around on the ice and doing it that way. Like, that's all you can ask for with this group. And you know what? It's not like they're captains with, just because of seniority. Like, they're actually performing well on the ice too.
I preface this question by saying that 3 games is too soon to say.
Mm-hmm.
However, 3 games is a little bit more information that we had at the end of the preseason. What are your general thoughts on the Sabres goaltending situation?
I think what you're getting out of Craig Anderson is him at his absolute best. I can think of, every game he's played against the Sabres, it seemed like he was the greatest goalie in the world. I mean, he's just one of those guys that always looked phenomenal. He faced 45 shots, he's making 43 saves, and the Sabres lose 3-2. Games like that. And even against Montreal, looking on Twitter, Montreal fans are like, "Yep, another classic Craig Anderson game's coming. He's going to shut us down, and that's going to be that." And I was like, "How many teams do they have that? Here comes Craig Anderson. Oh, geez, he kicks our ass every time." Like, I mean, yeah, he's 40 years old. Okay, fine. There's been some goalies that have made it that far into their careers playing. Granted, not a lot of them are starters. By the time they reach 40, but he's what you're going to get out of him. I think that's the key part. Like, he's going to be at least an average goalie. He's very few times is he below average. But he's going to tread water. He's going to do his job, and they got him for a mentor, to be a mentor to Luukkonen. And, maybe that's the role he plays later on this season. But, the competition in camp made a lot of sense, and it played out the exact way it should have. Aaron Dell didn't play well; he looked bad for a lot of camp, and Dustin Tokarski played the best out of all those guys. So, Tokarski's not young; he's young compared to Anderson, but he's been around for a while. It's just his NHL career isn't very extensive. Goaltending will be a problem at some point. It's not going to stay, a 945, 950 level all season long. That's impossible. And if it does, they're going to deserve the Jennings Trophy and the playoff spot that'll come with it. But like, it's something where they're, and it sounds so basic just to say they're doing their job. I mean, that's what they're doing, but that's all you need these guys to do. Just be as steady as you can, try not to get hurt, and, make it so that life can be easier for the guys in front of you, because as long as you know what you're getting from the goalie and you don't have to like cover for a guy that's wandering all over the place, or, a guy who lets in the softies, as long as you don't have to worry about that stuff, everything else is, to borrow line from Teen Wolf, everything else is cream cheese. Like that's all you can, that's all you can ask for with the team that they're going to have in front of them. And that's going to have a lot of bumps along the way. Like it seems easy now, but like it's easy times aren't going to last like that. But you just want guys that can just hold the fort down for a bit. And I don't know, like if Anderson can play like this for like 60 games, like he's going to be the comeback player of the year. he's going to earn some kind of award if he can be like how, put up the kind of numbers he did like 5-6 years ago.
But they're not exactly standing on their heads. It's the defense and controlling the puck seems to be helping, to borrow a phrase from another sport. They're playing complementary football. Yeah.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong about that at all. Anderson, I think, has had to make, one or two clutch saves each game that he's played. Tokarski came up with a couple against Arizona. And if you can make it so your goalie only has to make a couple like, whoa, highlight kind of saves, or, hey, play the tape back. How did he get that puck? If you can hold it to that few number, that you'll take it every time. Like that's, and you're right. It does come down to the defense. It does come down to the way that they're playing, but it comes down to them not giving room to any opponent on the ice. If you're just crowding everybody with the puck at all times, it's going to make it easier, because players hate that. Players hate it when there's a guy on their back pocket just hounding them the whole time.
Annoying, and Cody Eakin called it.
Oh yeah. He's 100% right. Like that's what it is. And if you can annoy the other team to death, beautiful. Like you're going to get punched in the mouth at some point during the season, but like that's a great way to play.
The most annoying team in hockey. That's going to be the title of the DVD of the season.
And not just to the fans either, just actually to the opponents this time.
For a change. Hey, I was just thinking with the bye week and the discussion about bye week and how good it is for the team. I had a thought here as I'm getting ready to give the plugs. I think it's good to have the bye week a little early, especially when the weather's good, because Joe Yerdon, you're invited, of course. In fact, I'm asking you if you'd like to join Jonah and me this weekend at Amherst Pizza and Ale House, because they have the patio seating. And it's a great place to go to watch the college and pro football games. So Bills are on a bye this week. That means I'm able to watch NFL games. Well, actually, I was the last 2 weeks because the Bills played night games. I was able to actually enjoy the 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock games, which I don't usually get to do. Mm-hmm. But Amherst Pizza and Ale House at 55 Cross Point Parkway in Gettsville. That's right off the Millersport Highway and the 990. All kinds of TVs, indoor, outdoor seating, recognized by ESPN.com as Western New York's top spot to watch sports. As I've always said, and I continue to say, a lot of good energy in that place. It's one of my favorite places to go for that aspect alone. They have a ton of beers on tap and awesome food. Stop in or call for takeout and delivery, 716-625-7100. One more time, Amherst Pizza and Ale House's number is 716-625-7100. Tell them Joe Yerdon sent you, and you'll get an extra slice of pepperoni. But my other plug, once again, is for Joe Yerdon. Sign up for his Substack page at notedhockey.substack.com. Sign up for it. It's free. You get all Joe's insights delivered right into your email box. Or you can just go to the page and scroll through it and do it yourself, the old-fashioned way. The old-fashioned way to get your news, scrolling it on your page.
That's right. Not delivered to the front step. Just go to the webpage, dang it.
Right. Not no Morse code, no carrier pigeon. Just scroll right through and
You
see
don't have
all
to
of
hack
Joe
a
Yerdon's-
website. You don't have to do anything weird. Like it's nice and
Yeah,
easy.
no pop-up ads and videos aren't playing out of nowhere. It's just pure Joe Yerdon.
That's right. It's the way everybody wants it on the internet. Just pure
Straight
me.
Yerdon, homie. Joe, anything else you want to mention before we sign off?
I just want to say it's a treat to be able to talk to you guys again, because it has been a while, and times have been weird. Like, we don't need to go over how weird times have been, but sports world and everything, life world, all that stuff is just, it's too much. It's too much sometimes. So it's great to get back involved and get back to talking to you guys and having some fun with it, man. Like that's what it's part of this getting back on the horse thing that I'm enjoying very much, is that people are like, hey, let's talk again. Let's do this again. Like, everything about media is great, but like it's the camaraderie I'm into. Like,
Not everything about media is great.
No.
I want you to
not everything.
please retract that statement.
Okay. Not a lot of stuff about media is great. But the great part is the friends you met along the way.
That's right. Well, we're glad you're back on the horse too, Joe. And thanks for coming on Tim Graham and Friends, brought to you by CTBK. And hopefully we can do this more often.
It would be my pleasure to do that. I'm always available. I've got a lot of time to kill. So
A longtime F of TGAF, and yet his first appearance on TGAF, brought to you by CTBK. Longtime friend, first time guest.
First time guest? Yeah.
In this iteration. He's been on the
Correct.
radio show, but that doesn't count. It's all TGAF these days.
He's like the Zemgus Girgensons of this podcast.
If only I was Latvian to go along with it. I'll just have to
Right on.
I'm like the mutt locomotive.
Joe Yerdon, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
The financial needs of a business go beyond tax and attest services. That's why CTBK goes beyond accounting services and offers outsourced solutions through their affiliation with CFO Solutions Plus. These additional services allow clients to focus on their operational and long-term strategic goals. Trust CTBK's outsourced solutions to provide cost-effective, value-added financial services tailored to your company's needs. Call CTBK at 716-630-2400. Again, 716-630-2400. Or go to ctbk.com to learn more about CTBK's outsourced solutions.